Hey y'all, hey. Today I want to talk about what does peace look like? Because for me, I feel like freedom and peace go hand in hand. And I believe that freedom begins with boundaries, okay? And when we think about peace, we think about how peace isn't found in being available to everyone. It's found in being available to God. So when you sit back and think about it, what does peace look like to you? And what does freedom look like to you? Because for me, I found out over these last few weeks that I'm constantly being stretched in so many different directions that my cousin ended up telling me that, okay, Shantae, you're loyal, but sometimes that can not only just be a strength, but that could be a weakness as well. Because sometimes I don't know how to say no. I'm always, you know, trying to insert myself and figure out what the issue is, try to resolve the issue, trying to help somebody out, even when I feel like I don't have enough in me and I'm still going over and beyond to be stretched and do things that are not in my will and that God didn't even assign me to do. So, how many people can relate to that? Because us as women and even men sometimes too, we just have so many responsibilities, so many things to tend to, so many people that we care about that it's easy to lose sight of yourself and just start focusing on what everybody else is going through and becoming more of a listener than just a talker. And I want to speak to those people because setting boundaries, it sounds like you're distancing yourself from people, but boundaries can be healthy. And I want to go over that with you guys today. And like I said, whether it's men or women, it's so many individuals that are out here wearing so many hats, whether it's fixing or listening or helping or solving problems or carrying burden that was never ours to carry to begin with. We need to be free from certain things like people pleasing, guilt, feeling guilty. So you like, okay, well, maybe I do need to help, or feeling obligated to help someone because some of us feel obligated to help, some of our closest family or our friends or, just things like that, people close in our circle. And if not that, we become everybody's fixer. So meanwhile, we're fixing, and helping others, but who's helping us? You know what I mean? Because we overcommit or we have this fear of disappointing others and thinking about where it will put our relationship if we don't help. So we put that to the forefront instead of our own peace and what we are and what we aren't able to do. Sometimes we stretch ourselves when we aren't able to do something just to show up for someone. But we have to take a step back because if we don't have it, we just can't help. And that doesn't make us a bad person. That just means we're setting those peaceful and healthy boundaries because we understand that we can't be stretched so far out to where we feel helpless ourselves. And just going back to what my cousin said, like what she said had to sit with me for a couple of days, and I really had to self reflect and think about what loyalty means. And I've always had this definition of you got to show up for someone at any time, any place, or be there in support when you're needed. But that could be so overwhelming at times. And I had to realize that I can be loyal, but I can also have limits. I can love people without carrying the weight of their choices. And that's what I went through in these last few weeks. I can't keep giving, and it not be appreciated, because it comes to a point where someone wants more and more and more. And you have to continue to stretch yourself and try to give that and try to provide what they feel is necessary. But what if it breaks you? You know what I mean? And I had to realize that, man, what I'm doing is breaking me, because I'm going over and beyond and it's still not being appreciated. So I have to take a step back and start talking to God first before I start making these decisions, because everything is not meant for you to do. So going to God and be like, okay, Father, am I meant to do this? Am I meant to help? And which way and how do you want me to support this person? So let's just put some scripture on that thing and dive into our Bibles real quick, okay? So in Proverbs 4 and 23, a key takeaway from that scripture is basically saying to guard your heart. Y'all, protecting your peace is stewardship. It's not selfishness. So putting yourself first is not selfish. You have to understand your needs before you can understand the needs of someone else. So another scripture that I wanted to focus on was Mark 1 verse 35. And when you go and read that chapter, you'll see that that verse is not just about Jesus praying, but it's about Jesus setting boundaries around his purpose. And we have to understand that leading up to that, the day before, Jesus was praying over people, healing people, casting out demons, teaching crowds, and just giving a piece of himself to everyone. But we understand that very early that next morning, while it was still darkness out, y'all, Jesus got up and left the house and went off to basically a quiet place, a solitary place where he could go pray. And we noticed that when you could do that, you have a lot of restraint and a lot of boundaries, and you can have a reset in your mind, okay? And sometimes just a quiet moment to yourself, a reset, and just going to go pray and talk to God, that can be a form of peace, a way of setting boundaries, y'all, because even Jesus prioritized with the Father versus the demands of people and what everybody else wanted from him, okay? Because y'all, peace comes when your schedule is directed by purpose, not pressure. And just because everyone is looking for you to do different things to help them out doesn't mean that they should have all the access to you in the world. Those boundaries can be healthy. They are important to where you're not stretching yourself so far out that you've lost yourself and who you are, and you've lost putting yourself first, putting your needs first. Y'all, we often have um a selfless mind of putting the needs of others first. And although that may sometimes be the Christian thing to do or the right thing to do, we have to prioritize our health and our feelings and how we can still provide the needs of others while thinking about ourselves and our peace and our needs as well. We have to be the ones to follow Jesus' lead, okay? Because Jesus wasn't led by people's expectations. He was led by God's direction, y'all. And sometimes we're so exhausted because we start our day by answering other people's calls, getting on our phones first thing in the morning, responding to texts, checking out what everybody is doing, you know, carrying everybody else's burdens. But this is why we feel so empty earlier in the day and we're trying to sustain the rest of the day because we haven't even answered God's call or spoken directly to Him before we have responded to everyone else. So let's think about that going forward. When I think about freedom, I think about peace, I think about boundaries, I think of being freed from unhealthy obligations and people pleasing. So we have to ask ourselves this week, what boundaries do we need to set and whom do we need to set them with? Have you confused loyalty with obligation? And what are you carrying that God never asked you to carry to begin with? So, as I close out, y'all, a couple of affirmations and declarations we could say are things like this: I have permission to protect my peace. I can be loyal and have limits. I release the burden of people pleasing. I do not carry what God did not assign to me. My worth is not measured by how available I am. My no can be just as obedient as my yes. I choose obedience over obligation. I'm not shutting people out. I am guarding what God has asked me to guard. So let's end with scripture, y'all, because in Philippians 4 6 through 7, it basically says, let your requests be made known unto God, and the peace of God, which passes all understanding, shall keep your hearts and mind through Jesus Christ. Everything should flow through Him, y'all. It shouldn't be a yes, yes, yes for everything that you hear and everything that people need. Everything that is required should go through God, and we need to figure out, is it meant for us to do it, yes or no? It's as simple as that. Put yourself first, put your needs first, understand what peace looks like for you because it's different for every individual. So it's time to start self-reflecting and understand, how do I put myself and my needs first while still being able to give to others? So I appreciate y'all for listening. This is episode number 30, y'all. Thank you to all my subscribers and everybody that's been rocking with me. Feel free to share this message with anyone you feel that may need it. I love you all so much.